Hello, hello, beautiful people, and thank you for tuning in to another video. So today is going to be a little bit different. I had an idea to write a library for a software called Blue Fox that we use at work currently. And I'll leave a link in the description so you can check out Blue Fox for yourself. But basically, it's a SaaS software as a service that helps developers and companies integrate email into their application. So it's basically another layer on top of Amazon SES, and it provides some extra utilities and makes things easier for developers. So they currently do not have a JavaScript library as they are in the earlier stages of development. So I had the idea to create a repository where I can basically make utilities for this. So the current way from the docs of how you interact with the API is just through raw URLs. And there's nothing wrong with this, and it works, and it's a good API. But I know that some people like type safety, and I want to provide a way to give that to people. And another reason I want to do this is also because I want to be able to integrate BlueFox in other components, in other software, and having a typed API where you can interact with the JavaScript versus just fetch HTTP calls, just makes things a little bit easier. So I guess I didn't really write any notes before I made this video. Um, but if we look in the repository and the packages, so we have a core, which is going to be the base library, which does all the logic. We have types, which is going to be types for JavaScript. The reason that I separated this is just to make it so if someone else, for example, wanted to maybe have, type safety. Oops, gotta turn my phone off. But say for example, some other developer wanted to have, type safety, but they didn't want to use my, wrapper around the API. They can just take the types and have all that. And then, utilities, if there's any like utils. I'm trying to, this is also like my first time like using a monorepo using TurboPack, so I'm trying to like learn that. And then convex, which is another technology we use at work. Um, I want to write some tools for that as well in the future. So that's kind of the idea. This video is just literally going to be like me figuring this out, how to do all this. I really didn't think too deeply into like how I'm going to structure this API and all that. So you guys are literally just going to come along for the ride and we'll see what happens. Yeah, I guess the first thing I'll do is start working on the API definitions. Maybe I should write the types first. That might be a little easier because then I can know how I want to model the data. Okay, so Blue Fox clients, this is going to be the interface. I'm not sure how OOP I want to do this. Like, I was thinking of writing interfaces, and then I was thinking of like writing, a client class that like extends this interface and has to implement these things. So the reason I'm thinking of doing that is because Blue Fox has different versions inside the app. So if we go to the documentation, you can see that we have this slash v1. So that'll be an easy way for, to say like BlueFox client v1, right? And then this way, whoever implements from this has to implement the v1 sort of interface, right? And then we can easily just do something like, BlueFox client v2. So I'll put this right here. So this is kind of like the equivalent of like this is like my header file, and this is like the actual implementation of the client. So okay, interface v1, cool. Okay, and what do we want this class to do? So let's go to BlueFox. Let's go to the API, subscription, list management, send transaction, send triggered. So basically, we're gonna make something like let's have like some kind of let's probably do something like subclasses. So I kind of want to like model the path of the API. So we can have the client. So it'll be like something like this. Like we'll do client dot like subscriber, and then dot we can do like dot add. And then this can be like adding a subscriber to your list, right? I don't know. I have to think about that a little bit. Okay, so here's like a little example API I was thinking about. So we have the subscriber, right? So the subscriber list management API. And basically we can use that and we can make an object on the class called subscriber. So this is like an example. So you create a new client and then from the client, maybe I should do it like this. from the client, you can call dot subscriber, and then you can call the add function, which kind of just does this. I think this is a kind of a good API because when you call subscribe using this path, and then you have this list ID, yeah, so you pass in like the subscriber list ID, and then inside of the request body, you would actually pass in the user's like name and email. Um, so we can kind of like model that inside of this API right here. But I think like subscriber.add makes sense, just like having, subscriber.remove, and then that'll basically call the unsubscribe. I don't really know how like subscriber.subscribe sounds and like subscriber.unsubscribe. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. Because if I name it that, then I'm not really sure like what to call the subscriber object. It just sounds a bit weird in my head. Yeah, but I'm gonna pause the recording and write a little bit, and then I'll unpause it for you guys. So give me a few minutes. All right, guys. So I am back. I unpaused the recording. Hopefully, you guys enjoyed that little time lapse of me fooling around and pretending like I don't know how to code. But basically, here's a little example API of what I designed so far. Basically, inside of this file, so I renamed the file from lib to v1. So the file will be the namespace, right? And this way, when you when you import the library, so you do import, whatever from you would do bluefox email, and then you do slash v1, and everything you import out of v1 will be from version 1. And then if I want to add a new version, I just make a new file, write that code, and then you can just do v2, and boom. So I think that's a really good API design so far. And basically, I actually haven't done too much inheritance and class stuff with JavaScript. I did a little Java, but it's been a while. But the reason I wanted to do this is because some people hate on OOP, but I think sometimes it's not too terrible. What I really like is how you can like pass around data and inherit data from other objects, right? So for example, this configuration, right? You can just pass the same object once you define it once here to all the other clients. Now, to do this with functions, you would basically just pass in you know, the config object to the function, and it's no difference. And some people prefer that over classes, but I don't really mind the classes to be honest. Another thing I like is that the constructor kind of forces like logic to run before other logic, so that's pretty cool. But yeah, basically like this is going to be the main thing you access. So if we do const client equals bluefox client, let's do API key, and then we can do client dot get subscriber, and then we can do dot, and then we can call the function and pass in whatever arguments we want. So I think that's a pretty good API so far. Um, I might, and see, it's also pretty cool is like the get subscriber logic is actually coming from the abstract function. It's not coming from this logic right here. So that's kind of cool. Um, Although I can kind of see why some people don't like that because it's kind of unclear, like what does this code do when you have like other things mutating that's not in your code base. So I can see both sides of the argument, the OOP thing. But for now, this is what I'm gonna do. And again, the main reason I'm splitting these up, like this can obviously, like most of this code right here doesn't have to exist, but I want to make this extendable. So even if you don't want to use my, API that I wrote to handle the Blue Fox API, you can still at least like, you know, this will kind of be like an encode, a JavaScript documentation of the Blue Fox API, hopefully by the end. But yeah, this is the design I'm going for. So literally, my plan is off camera. I'm going to go through each of these sections, implement the logic for this. I'm going to go through each section in the API, like transactions. There'll probably be another class, and I'll make its methods, and I'll implement those methods. And yeah, that's kind of going to be the API. It shouldn't be too hard. I'll make you guys an update video next time. And yeah, I think I'll go to end the video here. It's been about I don't even know how long it's been. It's probably been about 40, 50 minutes at this point. I kind of did realize that this type of video where I didn't pre-plan too many things, um, it's a little bit hard for me to like record because I'll like pause and I'll stop talking for like 15 minutes and I'll be like, oh shoot, I'm making a video. And then this on the fly thing is a little new, so I'll have to I have to get better at that. But yeah, I'll make you guys some updates and feel free to subscribe and follow me on the socials. And yeah, catch you guys in the next video. Peace.